a little red button come on.
It's recording now.
It is? You can see
Yeah.
it? You see
Yeah.
the button? Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, I will go get this monster PowerPoint and we'll get started. At least I think I will. Where's the share button? There it is. And that must be it. Chago,
Yes.
pick it up, and anytime you want, it's up to you guys how you want to do it. And whenever I can assist, I'll be glad to. And I will also flip the slides for you. So
Okay.
here we are on the contents. Chago, go ahead.
Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Federico and I had the opportunity to study Starbucks Coffee Company throughout the semester, and we are excited to show you guys some of the information that we got. So starting off with the background and mission. Here we have Starbucks logo timeline. The first logo that you can see on your top left was designed in 1971. Starbucks coffee, tea, and spicy displayed a mythical two-tailed mermaid.
This is
inside
one of those we can go by.
Okay.
This is a history of the Starbucks logos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's gone through an interesting history, and as it did, it changed this logo. Okay.
Yeah, it was the mermaid was involved in a conspiracy theory, so they had to constantly design new logos. So on your left, you have Starbucks' first store in Seattle Pike Place Market in 1971, and then the Chicago Grocery in 2020. I had the opportunity to be there over the summer, and it's a magic place if you had the opportunity to be there. It's really
That store in Chicago, by the way, is the biggest Starbucks store in the world. Is
Yeah.
5 stories tall, I think. Yeah, so it's the biggest
It
one in
has,
the world.
yeah, it has five stores. Yeah. So the timeline for the company, it's all started in 1971, as I said. It was a big year for the company, and then 1987. That's when Howard Schultz. You guys are gonna listen us a lot talk about him. He was the CEO for the company. During one of his trips to Italy, he had the idea to bring the coffee experience that the Europeans had to America. So he came back in 1987, and then he acquired Starbucks for continue to spread his idea here in the United States. And then 1993, the company opened its first roasting plant. 1996, it opened the first store out of North America in Japan, and it started to serving Frappuccino, which accounts for a large part of the revenue for the company. In 1999, it opened the first store in China, and it acquired the first tea company and plays an important role for Starbucks. In 2002, um, the company established Starbucks Coffee Trading Company, which is located in Switzerland, and it serves as a hub to purchasing of coffee beans. Uh, is in it responsible for purchasing all the coffee that is served in Starbucks around the world, and it operates 46 coffee houses. Later on in 2008, Howard Schultz came back to run Starbucks. He was the CEO from 1987 to 2000, and then from 2008 to 2017. On 2012, Starbucks opened farmer support centers. That's an initiative that the company had to reinvest on the farmers that they got their coffee beans from. So the company adopted an open source approach with the latest research and sharing on tools, practices, and resources with growers around the world. whether they were selling the coffee beans to Starbucks or not. And then on 2015, the Starbucks College Achievement Plan. It was first a partnership with Arizona State University that intended to create opportunity for U.S. employees to earn their bachelor degrees with full tuition covered all the way to graduation.
Yeah, maybe I can add just a couple of quick comments. You can see that Schultz left the company when it was doing real well. So he felt good about the company and took off to just expand he turned management over and took off for China to see if he could acquire a bunch of locations for Starbucks in China, which he did. But while he was out, things got out of control. And so you can see that he came back and had to sort of get things back under control. So Schultz is an important factor here because apparently the success of the business has really depended upon his leadership. Another thing I think that is very important is in the upper right-hand corner of this slide, when we see the farmer support in Colombia. Starbucks has put together what I suppose we could call alliances to be the sole purchaser of some premium coffees in Colombia, but also provided a lot of support to the farmers there. So Starbucks is very well thought of in the countries where it buys coffee, particularly Colombia, because it does so much for the farmers. Okay.
And here we put both mission statements. The company recently updated it. So from 1990 to 2008, the company had this first mission, and then once Schultz came back to run the company, they changed it again.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
now,
here, my bad. So here we have Abel's model. So we're gonna focus on the three aspects of Abel's models, which are unmet customer needs, the served market customer groups, and the required distinctive competences. There you go. So the served market, or the people who Starbucks is targeting, are students and professionals who fall under the following categories. So pretty much high income, high spenders. It's not a secret to any of us that Starbucks is a little bit pricier than its competitors, such as McDonald's and, for example, small coffee shops. So someone that wants to buy from Starbucks needs to have somehow high income or purchasing capacity. Is urban and on the go. So pretty much professionals again, technology early adopters, health professionals. So if you go to Starbucks and you see the menu, you're gonna see that most of the products they sell are healthy. They're not like in the category of unhealthy foods, right? As well, socially conscious customer. If you go to the Starbucks website, you're gonna see that they really care about the well-being of the planet and of the farmers. So definitely someone that is socially conscious and reaching beyond the storefront, meaning that back in 2017 or 2018, Starbucks established a partnership with Uber Eats, where pretty much you just order Starbucks drink via Uber Eats and it is delivered to the door of your house or apartment.
Okay, these are not what you would call the lazy people that just hang around, are they? These tend to be more, I guess, active people, either physically or mentally. They tend to be professionals, right? Or students. I guess we're going to see later that a large portion of Starbucks customers actually are students, college students. So this is an intellectually active group. These are people who take an interest in what they consume.
Okay, now we have the unmet customer needs. So some of the Starbucks unmet customer needs are that they have actually met across the years, here, yes, are like the third place. So if you go to the Starbucks store, you're gonna see a lot of professionals and college people like actually doing their work or homework. So it is the way the stores are designed is to be like a third place where people can spend a limitless amount of hours, and they offer like free Wi-Fi as well. So it's like a safe third place for a lot of their customers. The quality coffee for home brewing, which was introduced a couple of years ago. The variety of sophisticated flavors you go to Starbucks, again, to the menu, you're gonna see like all these sophisticated flavors that maybe other companies like McDonald's, they don't offer. Then Italian coffee shop, which is like a touch of luxury, then affordable luxury, because to a lot of people, actually, Starbucks coffees are considered an affordable luxury. And in general, it is a special experience just because of the environment of the store. You go to the store, you can smell the coffee beans. Is the the music in the background is just a relaxing and professional environment at the same time. Now, my customers needs. What's next? Like, what do people want Starbucks to take care of later? Are 24 hour stores, then recyclable cups and straws, like that cup we see in the picture, like it's not 100% recyclable. I think just the lid is recyclable, but the cup itself is not recyclable. So that's what people want Starbucks to address next. Refill service, active engagement in local community activities. We don't really see a lot of engagement on behalf of Starbucks in local community activities, right? So that's what people want Starbucks to be more engaged in. And then we have more tea products, which Starbucks is still working on it. For example, with the acquisition of Tiavana, that's a start, but we still want more tea products. For example, in Asian markets where this is a big market, right? People in China drink a lot of tea. Then we have required distinctive competences, like quality and variety of coffee. Again, just the quality itself is much better than its competitors. Then we have a sustainable supply chain setup, skilled roasters and baristas. So they hired the best candidates and they train them for a set amount of time. And then like high employee morale because of all the benefits that the company offers. And then customer friendly locations. As I mentioned, you can stay as long as you want at the Starbucks locations, and they offer free Wi-Fi as well.
What do you think this means here? Let's see if I can set it off for us so we can see it better. But sustainable supply chain setup, what's that mean?
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty much all the way from the farms, right? Like the way they harvest the coffee beans. It's just such a controlled supply chain process all the way from Colombia to the moment where it goes through the coffee. It is just like very controlled, if that's the word. Sustainable plus I mean, what it means sustainable is that the process is it was
Let me help you out.
Yeah.
I think the sustainable is certainly a good word. It's meant to refer to environmentally sustainable, good farming practices and so forth. But to be honest with you, what we're really looking for is that, right? What's made Starbucks successful is that it's got this, I think maybe preferred. It's the preferred buyer of coffee in Colombia. It's almost perhaps a different word would be exclusive, right? They've got a wrap on these high premium beans, and in order for them to be differentiated, they've got to offer a better quality of product. They've got to be confident that they can always offer it. And so they've gone to great lengths to see that the word sustainable means it can be sustained, that they're going to hold on to it and it's not going to slip out of their hands because that is a real source of differentiation for Starbucks, that supply chain, and particularly these premium beans that they can get. They really have a different product. Okay, pardon me for interrupting. I think that's an important point.
And here, I made this slide just to analyze Starbucks, both first Starbucks mission from 1990 to 2008, and then the actual, the present mission statement that the company has. So for the first mission statement, Starbucks partially, we came to the conclusion that Starbucks partially um, accurately reported its mission because Starbucks did express the superior quality of their services and products, and it did approach its growth potential while maintaining their long-term distinctive competences. And then for the present mission statement, we reached the conclusion that Starbucks did not report its mission accurately and completely. Starbucks has not targeted its market segment. Has not selected customer needs to be met in the future, and Starbucks has not determined how they would sustain their expansion in the long run.
Okay, so in order to get a good reading of Starbucks mission, we were better informed when we look at Abel's model.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so here we have a biography of Howard Schultz. Education, he went to Northern Michigan University. His major was communications. So early career after NMU, Schultz worked at a ski lodge for 1 year, and after that he became a salesman for Xerox. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it. And shortly after Xerox, he became a general manager for Hammerplast, which was a company that manufactured like coffee related products, like home coffee related products. While at Hammerplast, Schultz visited Starbucks for the first time in 1981. And at Hammerplast, Schultz was responsible for U.S. coffee machine manufacturers operations. So it's important to remember that Schultz joined Starbucks in 1982. So that was just 1 year after he visited Starbucks for the first time while at Hammerplast, right? Just like linking both
Yeah.
dates in there.
Let me provide you a comment here that might be of interest to you. Schultz is certainly not what you would call a Harvard MBA, is he? He's not somebody who got one of these real whiz bang educations, and yet he accomplished quite a lot. So I think what's encouraging about Howard Schultz is that you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar. What you have to do is have some grit, right? And just be fast on the uptake. And when you look at his work experience, I mean, he worked at a ski lodge, became a salesman for Xerox back there when Xerox was pushing great big copying machines. And even at Hammerplast, you know, I mean, this guy is not going to, doesn't look like he's chief executive in the making. But he just stumbles across this thing and says, "Hey, I can do something with that." But it's got nothing to do with a super whiz bang education. It's just somebody who maybe is just like you, who can see a good thing and has enough energy to pursue it. So Schultz is a very encouraging person for people.
Then at Starbucks, he was hired by Starbucks again in 1982 as Director of Retail Operations and Marketing. In 1985, Schultz steps down from Starbucks to launch his own business, which receives funding from Starbucks. In 1988, Schultz and Yornell acquired Starbucks retail unit for 3.8 million. So the reason why Schultz stepped down from Starbucks in 1985 is because while Starbucks he went to Europe and saw that there were like different new drinks in the menu, and when he came back to the U.S. and tried to convince the Starbucks CEOs to introduce this drinks into the U.S. market, the Starbucks CEOs declined. So Schultz decided to leave Starbucks and open his own company, which was Now. So in 1992, Schultz announces a Starbucks IPO, which was at a price of $17 at the time under the ticker symbol SBUX. Starbucks share price is around 85 at the moment. In the year 2000, Schultz steps down as CEO and focuses in company expansion, which objective is to open 1 to 2 stores openings a day in mainland China. So he pretty much grabbed his private plane and just flew everywhere, Europe and Asia, with the objective of opening new stores and expanded the Starbucks into other countries. In 2008, Schultz returns to Starbucks as CEO as he saw that the revenue of the company was declining. In 2009, Schultz leads the firing of at least 700 Starbucks employees and temporarily closes down thousands of Starbucks stores. This was after the 2009 financial crisis, right? And in 2019, Schultz announces retirement from Starbucks.
Okay, this is one of those slides that I wrote you guys an email about. What we need to do is try to go through slides like this faster by inviting the audience to read the bullets on the slide. And you should summarize that this is Schultz's history, his career. What's interesting about it is that he made the company great, then stepped out and had to come back in to get it back out of trouble. See if you can summarize what's on a chart like this that has so many bullets, so that we can get through it in a lot less time. This is a good one to get by.
Yeah, here.
This is the flow chart of what goes on in the roasting plant. Y'all can look at it when you have more time. And here we have the second half of that flow chart. Okay, so now move on.
Yeah, roasting plant and supply chain. As Federico was saying, Starbucks is known for its effective supply chain. As you can see on the picture on your left, the green arrows, they identify the coffee bean source for Starbucks, the countries that export, that provide coffee beans to the company. The red arrows, they show the paper source for the cups, and the yellow arrows, like Brazil and Australia, they are the sugar source for the company. So the reasons why Starbucks has acquired a supply chain that spans across, that is effective, it is because it is capable of balancing cost reduction with social responsibility. It works through major disruptions quickly and without significantly impact to its end customers. And supply management is formed by a team that believes in mission and values of the organization. And the Starbucks has 6 plants in the United States. Yeah.
I'm trying to keep you moving.
Yeah. Here now we'll start talking about the products and services that Starbucks works with. Next.
You see my coffee cup? It's full of Starbucks that we make at home here.
Yeah, so here we have the products that Starbucks offers. So these are all the products and services. Starbucks has the coffee. Next.
Sorry.
Yeah, so here, last year, Starbucks had sales of 26 billions, and the intent of this chart is to show that just the beverage sales accounts for 61% of total net revenues for the company, and that Um, food is just 18%, and other, which is royalty and licensing revenues, beverage-related ingredients, and ready-to-drink beverages account for 21%.
Okay, so what's interesting here is that the 61% is probably a little lower than you and I would expect. It's still $16 billion out of 26 billion, but there's $10 billion of other stuff, half of which is food. But then you really need to look at that footnote, and I think that probably the licensing revenues make up a fair amount of that. You know, when you walk down the hall on Raper Hall, what do you see? You see a Starbucks sign out there, right? Okay, that's not operated by Starbucks, but Starbucks gets a little something because whoever operates these stores and colleges pays a licensing fee to Starbucks to put that sign out and to sell Starbucks product in the coffee shop.
Yeah, and here we have divided all those products that we just showed up into 4 categories just to make it easier for us to present. So the first one is handcrafted beverages, and these are the most popular Starbucks products, all these. And then the coffee, more than 30 blend and single origin premium coffees. That's very important for Starbucks, of course. The fresh food, baked pastries, sandwiches, salad, fruit salads, and then the products, the brewing equipment, mugs, and accessories. Next. And here, Starbucks store experience is one of the company's products. As I said, I've been into this Starbucks store in Chicago over the summer. And
This is one of the best slides in the whole pack
thank you.
because it points out that Starbucks doesn't sell just tangible things, but it
Yeah.
sells an experience, that Italian coffee shop experience. And these two guys are real impressed by this fantastic place in Chicago. But it's there's something to Starbucks that goes beyond the simple products. It's the whole combination.
Yeah, and here it's just then the summary. This Venn diagram shows basically the concept of the company, which englobes the store experience, the coffee, and the related products. That's the Starbucks. Here we have countries with the most Starbucks locations. Of course, United States in first place with basically half of all the outlets worldwide, and then China in second place with almost 4,000 outlets, and then we total stores as of 2019, Starbucks had 30,000 outlets across 80 markets.
Wow. And but 3,700 stores, 3,684. That's a lot of stores.
It is.
I mean, that's really a lot of stores. And that's what Schultz did when he went to China, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Schultz was a busy boy, but he was also very successful, very effective in China, just like he was in the United States when he got things going. He's one of those people who can get things going, you know, who can start things up. That's a talent, isn't it? I don't know. Not everybody has that talent to see what can be and make it happen. So Schultz has got this talent, and it again, is it because he's a Harvard MBA or a Rhodes Scholar? No, it's because he's very pragmatic, practical, you know, get it done kind of guy. And you all can be get it done kind of people, right? Any one of you, if you had Schultz's get up and go, could do what Schultz did.
That's just the conclusion of what I was talking about. So as of today, half of Starbucks stores are in the United States. China is the second country with the most Starbucks stores, and in North America, US and Canada, 16,000 stores. And for the future, Starbucks has room to grow in both in Asia and Europe, mainly in China, Japan, South Korea, even India and Singapore, which are emerging markets. That's the consolidated results of operations. On your left, the table shows that the majority of Starbucks revenue comes from the United States, and the table on your right shows that the majority of um, the, the the revenue comes from company operated stores. So Starbucks is able to control most
Bingo.
of its operations, and that's very impressive. That's very
If
good.
anybody's taken notes, they should have picked up on what Chago just said. You know, this is one of the characteristics of this system is that Starbucks management can maintain control. That's not the way a normal franchising operation is it?
That's the conclusion that I just said. 60% of Starbucks revenues come from the United States, and the majority of Starbucks system consists of stores that are owned and operated by the company. And it's enables Starbucks to maintain control over the operations. And here's just the revenue by country. 75% of Starbucks revenue is in North America, 18% in Asia, and just 4% in Europe.
Good.
Now we start economic assessment. So gross domestic product for the most important markets for Starbucks. Here we can see in 2014, China surpassed the US GDP purchasing power parity, and now it's the largest economy. And because of COVID the pandemic, we expect that this difference between China and United States to be even greater as the years go by.
Yeah, so we'll put this dotted line in up to today. Now, again, because we've seen these charts before in other presentations, don't feel that you have to explain them in great detail.
Okay.
But I think the bottom line for a chart like this is that if you're not developing business in China, you're probably missing out on the growth potential of the industry. And then maybe a little follow-on statement would be later on down the road, you know, Starbucks is going to have to develop an approach to growing in India. So as you said earlier, China is the growth market of the present, India is the growth market of the future.
Yes. Yeah, here I'm just comparing the US, European Union, and Asian 5.
Good slide.
Yeah.
ASEAN, and so we see these Southeast Asian nations, and they're getting to be a big deal.
Here I have the gross domestic product purchasing power parity per capita, just to show that currently the Americans can buy more value with their money than Indonesians, but this scenario is very likely to.
Well, it simply indicates that Starbucks has done the right thing by concentrating on the markets that are the richest. And it's probably true that some European markets, such as the United Kingdom, also offer spending power. The problem is that the Europeans have coffee shops in Italy and they know what coffee shops are. It's not something new. But in China, you got to be a lot more pointed. You can't just put coffee shops everywhere the way Starbucks does in the US, because everywhere in China, people don't have the wealth to patronize a store like Starbucks. What we saw earlier on in Abel's model is that the kind of people who patronize Starbucks are a little better off. They're better educated, they've got good jobs, they're professionals. So you got to locate in China, you got to be a little much more pointed in where you put these stores. There's lots and lots of people to buy Starbucks in China, but they're not just spread out evenly across the map the way they are in the United States.
Yeah. So here inflation, the graph shows that The overall inflation rate has come down over time, and inflation is important for Starbucks because the higher the inflation rate, the less the countries will have, the population of that country will have money to afford luxury goods. So inflation directly affects um, Starbucks sales. But as we can see, um, inflation rates have fluctuate a lot over the years, but they have been um, decreasing, as we can see.
We don't see anything right now that looks scary.
Yeah, here just what
Yeah,
I said.
same thing. We got confirmation. So rising prices of commodities, at least in these countries, do not deter people from, if they have money, to spend a little on Starbucks. If we saw this for India, we would have a different picture because inflation's kind of high there.
Here, just to show how big China is, and as Dr. Ronnie said, if Starbucks is not currently thinking strategically how to penetrate the Chinese market even in a greater extent, it should be doing soon. And here, just to show that I couldn't find on the IMF database the information for India's population, so I found this graph that just shows that
This is a spectacular graph. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it before, but it's got everything. It's got this comment down at the top. These are fantastic lines. I think you guys really did a great job by coming up with this because it really shows, the future versus the current growth.
Mhm,
Great slide. Great slide. Do you mind if I borrow that?
of course.
Thank you.
Here, the urban and rural population projected to 250. So this economic trend also impacts Starbucks. The higher the urban population in the world, the better for Starbucks. People will be closer to their stores, and the demand for Starbucks products is very likely to increase. The unemployment rate here, comparing United States, China, European Union, as not as the inflation rate, but the lowest the unemployment rate, the better, because then people will have money to buy non-essential goods. That's very
I have a feeling that when this chart's done, or when these numbers are done again, we're going to see Europe's unemployment rate sort of pop up because they are really being blasted by the coronavirus.
yes. And here, comparing the most important.
Yeah. See, like, look at the UK. Of course, look at the US.
Now starting the market assessment. Just to remember, Starbucks primary sales are in North America, United States, and Canada. Countries of the greatest importance to Starbucks are the United States and China, and the emerging Asian market in China and India, of course. And the European market are important in terms of Starbucks' continued growth in the future. This table right here shows the coffee consumption in the different continents. So the first takeaway is that coffee consumption in Asia is increasing more rapidly than in any other market. So that's very good for Starbucks to implement strategies over there. The second one is that Europe consumed the highest amount of coffee from 2014 to 2018, and that the majority of Starbucks revenue come from North America, even though it consumes less coffee per year than both Europe and Asia. So if
I think
Starbucks,
this was also a very good chart, and
yeah,
you're circling the highlights certainly helped. You guys
yeah.
have done a good job on this thing.
This is the domestic consumption of coffee in the US. The takeaway here is that the market, it's not at all growing. It doesn't have a rapid growth in the
Right.
US. So
Yeah, it's there, and it's the good news is it's not declining. Like, for
yeah,
instance, if we see, I don't know whether PepsiCo is one of the cases in this course, but consumption of carbonated beverages, soft drinks, is really declining because of the health hazards. The good news is that I certainly make my contribution. To keeping this coffee consumption up. I do my part just as much as I can. I try to keep that cough. Also, I'm trying to give Chago a chance to moisten his throat. Chago, you're doing
yeah,
a you're doing a great job, but this is and no disrespect to Federico either. Again, you guys have both worked as a team here on this. If by any chance your throat gets real raw, you want to take a break, I'll be glad to step in and do some slides for you. Just let me know. There would be
okay,
no harm done.
thank you.
Yeah.
Here, of course, United States has the highest market share. Starbucks has the highest market share, and China has Starbucks in China also has um, a high percentage of market share. In here, what we have to look at is that both UK and what is not impressive, but it's interesting is that Canada has Starbucks has a low market share in Canada, but I'll be talking about that later on the presentation.
Okay. Recall that Starbucks had what, 3,700 stores in China, but those 3,700 stores represent 80% market share. So Starbucks is in a very good position to continue its growth in China. This is a very positive chart. And in Japan, with almost 50% market share, that's not chopped liver. I mean, that's pretty damn good. Most consumer products companies would kill to get a 50% market share. Starbucks got 80% market share in China and the United States, which is amazing.
Here is just a pie chart comparing the Starbucks against its competitors. So it has 88% of market share compared to 6 to 7% of market share for McDonald's.
Well, this is presence of mind. This is when they go out and do surveys. What do Starbucks drinkers talk about? They talk about
Just
Starbucks.
remember
They love it.
yeah,
This chart says Starbucks customers love Starbucks.
and now we go to market survey. These are all the markets. So for the United States, the age demographic for Starbucks is both 15 to 24 and 25 to 54. And here we have to look on the top graph that shows that the age group of 15 to 24, which accounts for 14% of the US total population, consumes a disproportional amount of coffee. It accounts for 40% of total sales in the US, and compared to the 25 to 54 age group, which accounts for 40% of the US total population, it just consumes 49% of total sales. It accounts for 49% of total sales. So just remember that the age group of 15 to 24 consume a disproportional amount of coffee.
Just in case you all didn't get this conflict, and I'll see if I get it right. 39% of the population is 25 to 54. And I think we all recognize that that's where the big coffee drinkers are. Okay, and so although 39, that age group represents 39% of the population, it represents 49%, 10 percentage points more of Starbucks consumption, which demonstrates again that this is where the action is for Starbucks. So if you're running Starbucks marketing programs and they're advertising and so on, okay, it's this age group that you're going to aim your promotions at because that's where the money is. Now, here's where we can go. You got about 4 of these things. At this point, I doubt that you need to read the whole slide, right? You can just say, here's another one. Look at the size of the that age group in China and so forth?
I think here what is important to talk about then is just how the taste of Starbucks beverages change from country to country. So
Good.
in the US, I think it was the first best-selling Starbucks beverage was the vanilla latte. Here in China is the mango passion fruit frappuccino,
Ah, okay.
and then in Japan it's caramel frappuccino, and it basically Starbucks keeps the age demographic in all the markets that they serve. It's the same.
Yeah, another thing about Japan is you can see that the 25 to 54 group proportionally isn't quite as large because Japan is a very old society. And so you can see how much larger that top bar is. So Japan's going to be a little more difficult to grow in because of the demographic characteristics of the country.
Here for the UK, the population also is small compared to the other markets that Starbucks is present, and the white chocolate mocha is the best-selling Starbucks beverage over there, with the same age demographic. And for Canada, here, as I was talking about, Starbucks has only 30% of market share in Canada. That's because of Tim Hortons, which is also a coffee company in Canada, and Tim Hortons has three times more locations in Canada than Starbucks, and they also serve their coffee in gas stations.
Yeah.
And they have drive-through, so which facilitates for
Tim
customers.
Hortons is everywhere in Canada.
Yeah.
I've used
And
to do a lot of business in Canada, so I've been in those places, and I can tell you they are nothing like a Starbucks. It's just and they sell, it's a place to get food. It's sort of a competitor to I don't know, almost McDonald's. So yeah, all right. So they sell coffee, but they sell a lot of it. So they're a competitor.
Now the consumer buying intentions. Here, the top 5 global coffee markets. And it's important to notice that Indonesia and Japan are growing faster than before, and they are, as Brazil, just catching up with the US.
Sorry.
Here, yeah, no, you're good. Next. That's countries that love coffee to go. Japan comes in first, and then we can see some European countries coming from behind. That's an opportunity for Starbucks in the future. And then the number of Starbucks stores worldwide by region. We can see that in the US, it has been pretty stable over the years, and most of Starbucks stores are being built internationally.
Okay, you're getting tired. The takeaway here is obviously that Starbucks growth has been outside the United States, right? It's been international. You can see that those dark bars are growing a lot faster than the light bars. And I think that is an important takeaway. The reason I would mention a slide like this is it's just so easy for me to write a question on the exam about something that's this obvious. Taste trends.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we're gonna see, we're gonna talk about the market segmentation and targeting of Starbucks. So as mentioned before, it is between the ages of 25 and 44. So adults between the ages of 18 and 24 represent about 40% of Starbucks total sales. And mostly the Starbucks customers belong to the Gen Y, which was born between 1977 and the year 2000. Psychographic segmentation shows that most customers belong to the upper middle class and wealth customers who were educated and have a
There we
steady
go.
income.
And that's what we were saying back there with Abel's model. This is a fantastic picture it's just a great picture of what Starbucks wants its stores to be. These people are there to drink coffee, but they're also there to because it's that third place. It's not the office and it's not home. It's comfortable and they've got great coffee.
Okay, now we have a picture that shows the amount of Starbucks stores per country. So we in Europe, so we can see that the UK has the most, followed by Turkey with 523, and then it's France and Germany. Next slide, please. So the industry. Okay, there you go. Industry structure.
Here, the industry structure, this table is intended to show how big Starbucks is within its industry and in its market. It's has
Oh,
more,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it's bigger in sales, its return on investment, it's uh, extremely superior to its competitors. The only problem here, and I'm gonna talk about that later on, is its leverage ratio that is extremely high, and it got
Yeah, it's because that leverage ratio is so high. Because Starbucks had to restructure its balance sheet and take a bunch of debt, that the return on investment is so high because the invested capital goes down with equity, then so when the denominator goes down, if the numerator goes up just a little bit, you get this astronomical rate of return on invested capital. So that 120% doesn't really mean that Starbucks is doing better than the others. It's an artifact of the unusual balance sheet numbers. Now, Starbucks does have a good operating margin at 22%, but when we look at McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, then we're not quite as impressed. Too bad we couldn't get Tim Hortons. I would have loved to see what their operating margin is. I guess it's private.
yeah, I couldn't find
Yeah.
information.
Okay.
Here's so the 5-year revenue trend. It has been Starbucks revenue has increasing over the years, and in 2019 it had close to 27 billions. And the down here we have the exchange rate for the US dollar, Chinese yuan. So as this trend goes up, um,
So it takes fewer yuan
takes
to buy
fewer.
a dollar today. And
Mhm.
therefore, when we convert those yuan, we'll get more dollars if we make profit in yuan. But we can see that the trend over time has been the reverse. And so that's one thing that's kept these green bars from rising as fast as they otherwise would. Because when we convert the yuan to the dollar, we were not getting as many dollars as we could if we could have converted faster. But right now, the exchange rate is favorable, and it's probably helping Starbucks record more dollars of revenue. Sorry, I'll try to quit interrupting you so much.
Thank you. That's just the comparison against McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
How big? 5-year operating profit trend. It has sales times operating margin, and it has been increasing over the years. And due to the increase in sales, operating profit also increased, and it's efficiently control the cost and expenses associated with business operations. And then again, comparing with its competitors.
McDonald's pretty profitable, aren't they?
Yeah. And here, the invested capital trend, what we have to look at is that from 2017, 2018, and 2019, the company experienced a steep decrease in invested capital, and that's because um, they experienced an increase in the annual debt. Um, and I'm going to explain that in the following slide.
Okay. So, but down on the bottom, we have debt in the numerator and
Yeah.
equity in the denominator. And I'm not sure, but if you've got red numbers, does it mean that this is a deficit, that this is a negative number in the
No,
equity?
I was just trying to make it like express it just
Okay.
to,
Well, it does here for sure, because you got it in
yeah,
bracket.
this one
Yeah.
is negative. Yeah.
Okay.
And just
Sorry, I
to
screwed that
get
up.
it.
Okay.
And here, as I was saying, the reasons that explain this increase in debt is that Starbucks issue additional long-term debt in form of senior notes, close to 8 billion bond issue. And the debt was used to pay for general corporate expenses, the repurchase of common stock, buyback program, and dividend payments.
Yeah. It's if you get a chance, you probably want to make these boxes come out to be the same place as the debt one. Debt is one thing. I'm sorry, general corporate expenses are one thing.
Oh,
That's operations. Repurchasing stock, buying back stock, and paying dividends are capitalization, whereas this bullet up here is about operations, paying the daily bills. And that's the worst thing to borrow money for, because you don't get a return on it. It's not like investing in new machinery or building a new store where you get a return. You get a rate of return on that investment. You don't get a rate of return on borrowing money for corporate expenses. So that's like a great big bruise.
hmm. And now we have Starbucks leverage. It has, well, over the years, been has been pretty stable, if you can say that. And then from 2017 to 2019, it just spiked. So it reached 226% of leverage ratio, and that has a negative impact. So yeah, here comparing again against McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts. So
Yeah.
Starbucks leverage in 2019 was high, extremely high. High leverage percentages increase companies' risk of bankruptcy, and companies can be strategically aggressive whenever this
Yeah.
ratio is high.
That's right. What's interesting is that we can see that Starbucks' two big competitors also have leverage ratios over 100%. And so what's going on at Starbucks has been going on at the other companies as well. And so there's a lot of balance sheet restructuring going on in this industry. And a lot of it right now, of course, would have been related to the downturn in business that came with the coronavirus. But that wasn't the case in 2018 and 19. This was just due to restructuring.
Mhm. Here we have the 5-year return on investment trend, the comparison,
Yeah.
and it's
And the numbers prior to 2019 seem to be in the same category, which is
yeah.
really high. 2019 is not the norm.
Mhm.
Okay, so here
So
we have the, my bad, the BCG matrix for the Starbucks company. So here we have the stars, which is rapid growth and large market share, which is like food items, because we think that food items is the stars because they're constantly bringing new food items, adding new food items into their menus. Then we have the question marks, which are covers large amounts of cash and have potential for growth. So Starbucks introduced merchandise a couple of years ago into their stores, but they still have room to grow and expand and introduce new merchandise into their stores. So that's why it is a question mark. And then we have cash cows, which have a large market share, but it's low growth within the industry. So as we mentioned, like Starbucks has a lot of beverages, and there's a point, like the company is going to reach a point where where it's going to be a little bit hard to introduce new beverages because they have an infinite amount of drinks that are complex, if that makes sense, like a mixture. So that's why it is a cash cow. And then we have coffee beans for dogs, which do not require like big investments, but also do not generate like a strong cash flow. But it's obviously the raw materials, or it's the raw materials for the coffee.
Yeah. Um, as I've explained to everybody, but this is a good chance to do it again. If I have a different view of this BCG matrix than you do, you don't get points off as long as you can explain what's on your mind. And then we might have a little discussion about, what is and what is not a star. Food items for me at Starbucks, it's hard to see that as a star. That means a star is a business that has a high market share in a growing market. And I I don't know about you, but I don't think of Starbucks in the same way that I think about a McDonald's or a Wendy's or a Pizza Hut. That's not a place to get food. It's the food products just come along with the coffee. Now, you apparently think that the food items are have a chance to grow faster than other companies' foods, and so you put it in a star. Uh, but I don't know. I could ask a question. Do you agree with this team on its BCG matrix, and would you put products the same place? What I don't see is grocery coffee, but maybe you're going to talk about that later. But I certainly agree with you on the cash cow beverage, and particularly the coffee. And if we made these circles, of course, the great big circle here would be in the cash cow. It would be the coffee thing, right? And so what we saw in the bar charts was that that Starbucks sales are sort of slowing down, especially in the U.S. because they've pretty well tapped out the market for coffee. They hold a high share, but now what do you do for an encore? And I think that Starbucks really is still looking for some question marks, some ventures, some avenues to growth. And so far, maybe they haven't found a lot except for coffee that goes to grocery stores. Now, I should let the two guys respond to what I just said.
Yeah. So I mean, I do see food items as stars, especially like in countries where Starbucks is expanding into. So there's plenty of room for growth. For example, in Australia, where a lot of people go to Starbucks to not only get coffee but as well as food items. But yeah, we can make the change in there. If that's
Well, you don't have to as long as you have a point of view. If I don't know what I think you're doing this for geographic markets too. And I think that what we're
okay.
going to see is that there are some geographic markets that are cash cows, some that are stars, and so forth. So let's take a look. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Sorry. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, so here we have the BCG matrix for the countries, as Dr. Oni was saying, and that's to study and help with the long-term strategic planning for Starbucks. So China is classified as a star because it is a fast-growing market for Starbucks, of course, and China can generate large amounts of cash, but also require large investments. The US and Canada both are classified as cash cows because they are markets where Starbucks operate for a long time, and both market growth and revenue are not stagnant, but they're likely to within some years. Also, Japan, South Korea, and Indonesia are classified as question marks because they are high growth markets for Starbucks. Starbucks have the potential to gain market share within these countries. And lastly, the European Union is classified as dogs because it is a market where Starbucks has a low market share, and European countries do not create significant amount of revenue for the company.
Okay, so if you're a Starbucks manager and you're looking at this chart, what is your response? What's your strategic response?
China.
Okay, the reason Porter gave us this model, I'm sorry, the Boston Consulting Group gave us this model, was to figure out where we wanted to channel our cash and whether we had an adequate balance of businesses that are in these categories. So we had enough cash flow to support the growth of the company. And yes, I certainly agree. We want to take some of that cash from the cash cow and invest it in China to keep that going. Now, because China is growing and profitable from such a high market share, it may not need too much help because with that many stores and that high a market share, they're probably churning out pretty good cash all by themselves. So that leaves us with question marks. I think that a manager at Starbucks is saying, damn, is that all the places we have to grow? Yeah, doggone, we got all this cash flowing, but we don't have enough places to put it. We got to take a look at other growth markets. And that's a big question. Where are these growth markets? Is it India? No, because they don't have very high GDP per capita. That's not a wealthy country. The day will come, but it's not ready yet. So now what do we do? And that's a good question. It may be that something like Northern Europe, Scandinavia, if they're in Southern Europe and in Italy, they've got Italian coffee shops. So you're looking for something other than Southern Europe, but it's tough for Starbucks to figure out just where it has the potential to grow substantially. Yes, indeed, Japan and Korea, those are possibilities. I think those ASEAN nations, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and so right here where that red rectangle is, if you could type in that ASEAN, ASEAN, I think that would be an improvement.
I think that's the Indonesian flag, but I'll do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so here we have the industry structure life cycle. So we can see it by the arrow that Starbucks' current stage is the maturity stage because it is a very well established company in its market and in its industry. It is the next step, the next stage is going to be the product extension. It's definitely not a decline, and the product extension is going to happen as the Starbucks introduces more products into its menu, and as it expands into newer markets, into newer countries.
You might consider leaving that arrow, but putting a USA in it and then making a copy of it. And putting one down here, okay, with the word China in it, because that's in the growth stage still, okay? And then a real good question is, what's down here? Okay, is there anything down here? Is that possibly where the ASEAN nations are? But I think you can use more than one arrow here. I think that would really sharpen this slide up a bit. It's up to you guys because it's your presentation, but that one looks to me like it might be the right thing to do.
Now we have the critical success failure factors. So success factors is the recruiting and training of the right people, store atmosphere, as I mentioned earlier in the first couple of slides. Then the coffee quality, again, is the quality of the coffee is just much different than its competitors. The speed of service, and this has been improved by technology. If you go to the Starbucks app, you can order your coffee and you just go grab it and pay. You pay it and grab it, and you can leave the store. Consumer education. So Starbucks is constantly trying to educate the customers by different ways, such as social media, about different products that they introduce into their menus. Then the procurement process, helping farmers, which I'm going to talk about it later. Coffee bean roasting facilities. Right now, they have 7 roasting facilities all around the world. They opened the 7th one in Asia, and the plans are to open new roasting facilities in the next couple of years, are as they expand in the Asian market. The failure factors, pricing policy, um, the no consumer oriented menus. So which is the same as the business model, simply copied from American and foreign markets. So that's the reason, as I was telling Dr. Rohn in our previous meeting, that why Starbucks was failing in Australia, because most of its products were adapted to the American consumer, not the Australian consumer. So Starbucks need to improve a little bit in that way, like adapt the menus, its products to like local markets. The next one is to rapid opening of stores. And then the expansion strategy was not organic. This means that the amount of this is more like in European and in Europe than in the US. The amount of stores that were licensed and compared to owned by Starbucks is not um, it don't match, meaning that Starbucks should own more stores than the ones they license in order to uh, not put the reputation at risk. And then we have Porter's 5 forces. So here we're going to talk about the firms and its industry's profit potentials, its strategic priorities, and you can go to the next slide if that's okay.
Yeah, you know what we ought to do at this point, because we are running short of time, is move down to the table. Do you have a table? Yeah, you do, right? Do you think we could do that? Okay, because this is a summary of what you've got in these places, right? Okay, you want this. Go ahead.
Okay, so here we have Starbucks 5 forces analysis. So the competition, it is high within the coffee industry, since Starbucks has major competition like McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, and Starbucks. So its conclusion, coffee industry is a highly competitive industry. Then the bargaining power of buyers is high for Starbucks due to the abundance of substitutes and available to buyers and the lower switching cost. Okay, now we have the bargaining power of suppliers. The number of Starbucks coffee bean suppliers is high, and because of this, the Starbucks coffee bean suppliers, I mean, the bargaining power of Starbucks coffee bean suppliers is low. Uh, the trend of substitutes, we have water, tea, soft drinks, energy drinks. So there's a high trend of substitutes for Starbucks coffee drinks. Then we have the threat of new entrants, high financial investment required to introduce and sustain a chain of coffee shops. The coffee market is highly saturated, meaning that there's a lot of coffee shop stores. So the threat of new entrants is moderate for this industry.
Okay. So now we can,
Okay, so Porter's 5 forces scorecard. So we did this along with Tiago, and we concluded that Europe has,
China. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, China
China
has,
has the highest profit potential in that.
okay, remember that if the 5 forces are high, profit potential of the industry is low, right? Because all the 5 forces push profit down. So what this team has concluded is that the forces are the least strong in China,
Mhm.
meaning that the profit potential is the best in China, And since we've already seen in the BCG matrix that the growth potential is high, this is really, yeah, they called it a star, right? Because the profit potential is high and the growth potential is high. That's a star. And there it is. Also, we've got sort of a different picture in Europe. And although the pressure on profit is higher in the US, of course, that's where lots of wealthy customers are. So the mere fact that you've got more pressure on profitability in a market doesn't mean that you can't do well in it, but you've got to adjust your strategy in order to offset some of these forces. And that's why Porter gave us this model, was so we could identify specifically what these forces are that our strategy has to respond to. Okay.
Okay, so as a conclusion of the five forces model, the coffee industry profit potential is moderate due to the following factors: low but constant threat of new entrants, product differentiation, and high threat from substitutes. A strategy to increase profit and solve this problem is to continue with product differentiation strategy and promote new product development strategies, and set objective of entering new markets with growth potential and low competitive rivalry, for example, in China, and the introduction and India, which is still like a market that is still set to explode in the next couple of years.
Okay. I've got a little problem with the product differentiation here because it's not part of Porter's model. Over here, where you say you should continue with differentiation, I certainly agree that that's a good conclusion. But I think since we're so short of time, we're going to have to pass that discussion. So here's the cage analysis. And again, because of the time, just draw your conclusion. Where are the barriers to entry the greatest?
Yeah, we can see that the highest growth potential is Canada. Is it the lowest, right?
Well,
Yes.
now the cage tells us what the barriers to entry
Oh,
are,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they help us understand what the threat of new entrants is. Okay, if the barriers to entry are high, then the threat of new entrants should be low. I don't know whether you had a chance to check it or not, but if your result, the total, is high here in ASEAN, that means it's tough to get into the ASEAN nations. And so the threat of new entrants would be relatively low. Where the threat is, where the barriers to entry are low, then the threat of new entrants is high.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's how we want to look at this. So I think what you're telling us is that it's kind of tough to break into Japan. And I would certainly agree with that. I think that you're also saying that it's not hard to get into Canada, and I would agree with that as well. So maybe Tim Hortons we ought to take a shot at them. Off we go to Hofstede.
Yeah, this model is used to explain the cultural differences between countries as well. And here in the power distance, we can see the difference between the US and China. And for uncertainty avoidance,
Yeah, basically what we're doing with Hofstede is just making a comment about cultural distance. So again, do we see a lot of distance between the home country, the US, and these other countries? And based upon what you've got here, we could draw conclusions about the sea in cage. That's how it goes. It's kind of a waterfall from here to here to here. That's the way it's supposed to work. Okay, off we go. Capabilities.
yeah, here's just an outlook of the company financials. I've talked about it before, so we can go to the next
Okay.
one.
Here's some Starbucks strengths: the strong brand image, the global supply chain, the quality of the products, strong financial performance year after year. That shows global expansion program, Colombian farmers under contract. And I would also add that Howard Schultz itself was the strength of the company a couple of years ago when he just grabbed his private plane and went to China to establish connections with important people in China to expand Starbucks and open more Starbucks stores month after month. Employee treatment is also a strength for Starbucks. Global expansion. They have a very aggressive global expansion plan in China. The acquisitions across the years, loyalty program and rewards, and the higher market share in China. This is the reason of why they have a high market share in China is because last year, uh, Starbucks' biggest competitor in China went basically bankrupt due to some accounting scandals.
I think you've got
They
a slide on that, don't you?
yeah, later on, yes.
Luckin, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So weaknesses, products are easy to imitate, and there was a recall of products back in 2015. It was just a limited amount of products, but I felt it was important to include this in this slide.
Okay.
Here we have the organizational structure, global organizational structure for Starbucks. So here we have the CEO, then the president, then all the vice presidents for the departments within Starbucks. So for example, supply chain of coffee, the chief financial officer, and below them we see the president for geographical presidents for the Middle East, Africa, North America, Europe, and below them we have the vice presidents for in this case it would be for like just the US, but there's vice presidents for every country, every area in which Starbucks is doing business. And we also have a president, international president, which he's in charge of the United Kingdom, Australia, and Thailand.
Okay, I often ask people whether the organization chart is set up adequately to implement the company's strategy for growth. What do you think, Lucas? Turn on your microphone.
I think it is
Why?
because they're branching out to not only like North America.
Because they've got a president for Japan, a
Yeah.
president for Europe, and then they've got a president for international. Now it's kind of goofy. I mean, why aren't Japan and Middle East reporting to the president for international? That's kind of a strange thing. I'll bet you there's some political problem there. You can very well bet that I know damn well that if I was president of the international division and I didn't have Japan and Middle East and Europe and Africa reporting to me, I'd be pissed off. You know, I'd want to know why I don't have authority there. I mean, is that really international? On the other hand, clearly they've got people assigned to grow this company outside the United States. So the answer is a qualified yes. Now, I hope you took a note there because that is a classic question. That's just a beautiful question. I hope I remember to write that one. Okay, here we go.
Okay, now we have the organizational structure for the U.S. Again, the president of the Americas, which is divided into 4 sections: Southeast, Northwest, the Western, the Northeast, and then we have the respective store managers.
It's a very uniform structure. This is how they're set up.
Yes.
Okay.
And now just a simple Starbucks chart that pretty much shows the breakdown of the of a Starbucks store versus store manager, then the assistant store manager, then the shift leads, and then the baristas. The amount of shift leads, the shift managers varies according to the size of the store. It's not necessarily 5 per store. It can be less or more.
Yeah. I think that between this and this, you get more of your answer here. This company is well set up to operate. I mean, they've got their act together. Okay.
Okay, now we have the roasting plants, coffee bean roasting facilities in different states, and they're planning opening a new one in China by 2022. It's actually on the process right now, and they have one in Netherlands, and each plant is capable of producing 1.5 million pounds of coffee beans per week.
Can you imagine somebody falling into that vat? Oh, well.
That's some videos. You said we don't have time, so next slide, I guess. Resources. So we have the operands, which are active and tangible assets. We have the Starbucks logo. We have the procurement process, employee training program, employee benefits program, innovation, market expansion into different countries, and market research and development.
Great.
Now we have the operands, which are tangible resources of Starbucks, which have the stores, the store equipment, the roasting plants, the distribution system itself, and companies owned by Starbucks, such as Torrefazione Italia.
You said that well.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, goals.
yeah. So here we have the goals hierarchy structure. So at the top we have the long-term growth.
I put the arrow in there for you.
Okay, the favorable market position.
They're somewhere between financial and market, favorable market position, because they've struggled financially lately. And yet they're still really banging away to increase their market position. You could actually move that arrow all the way down to acceptable risk with that lousy balance sheet, but that's being cured pretty quickly. And I don't think Starbucks really is at serious financial risk, but they've got to get out of that mess.
And here, just the conclusion. So for Starbucks, acceptable risk is because of the high leverage ratio, the increase in debt from 2017 to 2020. The superior financial results, it had revenue of close to 27 billion in 2019. The high return on investment over the years, and more attractive financial results when compared to competitors within its industry. For the favorable market position, it currently holds 85% of market share in the US, and Starbucks has a high market share percentages in foreign markets. Lastly, long-term growth, expanding into China, India, ASEAN 5, and then find a way to expand into Europe strategically.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting. This is a really good place to just remind you of something that I've tried to mention to you from time to time. The goals hierarchy isn't an all or nothing kind of a thing. Instead, it's a model of where we place our greatest priorities. And we've got conflict for priorities in Starbucks because they've got each one of these factors here. There's a little bit of a concern about financial risk, but not much. Financial results have been good in the past. They've got they've got good high rate of return, but they still do have this high debt. They've got a good market position where they are, but they've got some room to grow. So the question is, where does Starbucks need to place its greatest priority? That would be a real good open-end question for me to ask, because you could answer it just about a dozen different ways, and you'd be right every time. Okay, all you'd have to do is know what you're talking about. From my standpoint, I would tell them, look, you know, you got a long time to implement your strategy, as long as you stay healthy. So I would get healthy financially. I would lock in, I would protect my market position and try to expand out gradually. And where I would do my expansion is where I'm already located, which is China. But first and foremost, I'd get my financial house in order, and then I'd start to expand my market position. And it's almost as if favorable market position and long-term growth overlap, because to get long-term growth, you're growing in China and you're already in China. So that's a favorable market position that you're trying to get. Rather, this is a tough situation to apply the goals hierarchy in, but nevertheless, it still applies. I'm sorry.
Here for the financial goals in terms of Starbucks sales is to increase revenues over time by increasing sales in emerging markets. So it continues to grow. In terms of operating margin, consequently, Starbucks operating margin will return to pre-pandemic levels. We can see that it
Yeah,
had
they,
a decline.
if they get over, back up over 20% again, they're in good shape.
So for long-term debt, Starbucks is likely to reduce um, its long-term debt after the repurchase of its common stock in 2018. Return on investment has always been high, as Dr. Roni said in one of our meetings, the company is creating money. And lastly, for shareholders equity, it is expected to increase over the next year, remembering that it was damaged due to the share buyback program.
Yeah, see, we've had this reduction in equity. So when we add debt and equity, we get a smaller number. And so operating profit divided by that smaller number makes a higher fraction. And so this is what we call an artifact. It's kind of the result of something that's abnormal. This is not a number that you want to judge the company's normal performance by, because it's not normal. This is normal, okay? And these are great rates of return. These are super. If they get back to on a normal basis to 50 or 60% return on investment, that's a license to print money. That's great.
And for the leverage forecasting, it's clear that Starbucks has to decrease its leverage ratio. And by doing so, the company will be able to be strategically aggressive. And also, the company will be able to
Yeah.
be responsive to competitors' moves. So,
Right now, do you
defensive,
think this company's in good enough shape to be strategically aggressive?
right now it's not.
Not at all.
No.
This leverage is far too high. So it really reins them in. They got to get this under control.
Yeah. And here's just the summary. So the goal for Starbucks sales is to increase by 72% for 2024.
I fixed this 135% for you. You had it in red.
Okay.
And it's really, these
Yeah.
are positive numbers, right? I go
Yeah.
from a negative to a positive. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, increase in operating profit margin as well in return on investment. Um, to decrease its long-term debt and increase the shareholders' equity, and of course, as I just said, to decrease its leverage ratio by a lot. It has a long
By
way
a
to.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Strategy.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about strategy. We can go to the next slide. That's okay. Okay, so differentiation strategy. We have the store experience. So the Starbucks stores are considered by many as a place where customers can relax and socialize with friends and family. Um, as I mentioned earlier, they have free Wi-Fi. You can stay there for a limited amount of time. The Starbucks provide an outstanding customer service, and the store design makes customers want to stay until the stores close.
This looks like a family having Thanksgiving dinner.
Premium coffee and variety. The best beans grow at higher altitudes. The cold nights and warm days create denser beans, and denser beans have deeper, more complex flavors. Uh, this is a quote that I gathered from the Starbucks website, where they're pretty much saying that Starbucks coffee beans are the best quality you can find anywhere. Coffee beans are handpicked in terms of size, color, density. So it's not like they just see a coffee bean, they grab it, they actually check that it is the right size, the right color, and the right density. The aggressive market expansion is the largest coffee house company in the world with over 30,626 retail locations around the world, operates in 80 countries, has over 14,000 stores in the US, and biggest areas of operations outside the US are China, Canada, Japan, and South Korea. adaptation of new technology on behalf of Starbucks. Customer value creation with the mobile order and pay feature, which allows customers to order and buy without getting in the line. So you just order it on the app and go to the Starbucks store and grab the coffee. You can leave. Use of social technology to receive feedback from customers. This is very important since this allows Starbucks to improve in areas where customers maybe are not so happy.
You know, there's something on this slide that most people probably don't notice, but it's really important. Do you see something on this slide that is sort of significant, but most people don't even know they're looking at it?
Is it the price?
Yes, sir. Way to go. Great answer. $30 for coffee. Holy, boom. I mean, that's a big tab for I mean, you wouldn't get a price like that at McDonald's, would you? Starbucks can charge high prices for premium products and the premium experience that they offer. This is a differentiated product and a differentiation strategy. Absolutely. And along with differentiation comes a high price and high profit.
This is a video about the supply chain. I don't know if you want to play it. Pretty much talks about.
No, we don't have time,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, here we have Enzo's growth matrix, current products and services. So we have market penetration, drinks such as espresso, cappuccino, mild, smooth, and bold coffee and tea drinks. We have product development, Starbucks via Ready Brew, Starbucks card, mugs, tumblers, and coffee machines. And for diversification, I think we spoke in the last meeting that Starbucks is doing quite a good job when it comes to diversification. And then we have market development, expansion to China, even India in the next couple of years, Frappuccino blended coffee, expansion to other countries, and grocery products.
Yeah, market development's where we take existing product into new markets, and that's the international program. Starbucks hasn't done much diversification, new product for new market, because they've been expanding with the product they've got, this really unique in-store experience. And basically the coffee product. Sure, they've got tea and they've got crumpets and stuff, but this is a coffee shop, and diversification has not been a big part of Starbucks' strategy. Market development sure has, and product development has, and market penetration has.
Okay, now we have again market penetration, hotels. Starbucks has expanded to hotels, grocery stores. I mean, can penetrate into hotels, grocery stores, businesses and industries such as cafeterias, product development, salads. They're already selling salads at some of their stores. However, they can, I guess, increase the variety of salads, grain bowls, fresh lunch and dinner program. Diversification, mugs, coffee machines, and wine. And then we have the market development, which is to open stores all over the world.
You can see what I just did with with mugs, chocolate, coffee machines, and all. Those are all new products for the existing market, but they're not diversification. Altogether new products such as pizza, you know, for a whole new market other than the consumers that they're serving now. So I think one of the takeaways is that that Starbucks is not executing a diversification strategy. It's doing, and I think your market development is just exactly right, all over the world. And market penetration, very good. That's Starbucks is still doing that. So Starbucks really doesn't need to be interested in product proliferation or diversification right now. They've got plenty on their hands already.
Okay, as a conclusion of the aims of Matrix, market penetration is to increase revenue by increasing sales of existing products. An example is to open new stores all around the world. Market development, this strategy backs Starbucks' expansion strategy by introducing already existing products into new markets. For example, entering new economies in Africa by offering already existing products to its inhabitants.
You're ill, and you don't have to do this. The folks can read these slides. So these are your conclusions, right? And with regard to diversification, maybe if you guys get around to it, we could sort of change this, because I don't think that Starbucks has a diversification strategy. We don't see new products for new markets. And a lot of what you've got here is the one thing that I did add was Starbucks grocery products. When they put that product ground up into a bag and sell it to grocery stores, that's a new market. And it's a new product. You don't drink bags of dry coffee, do you? That's not something you consume in a coffee shop. So that's a new product for a new market. And I think the grocery coffee probably is something that you could put up here for diversification. This would be, grocery coffee. Question is, do you have it in future? And by the way, congratulations. This is something that this team did. And just because the details don't work out right, according to some goofy old guy named Roney, that doesn't mean they're necessarily off base. These guys built an Ansoff matrix for the future, and then they used Ansoff's matrix to tell us how strategy had unfolded in the past. That's a real good use of Ansoff's matrix. So congratulations to you. We're just talking about detail. So but insofar as the detail is concerned, where do we put grocery coffee? I think they've got it now. So it may be that it belongs in this matrix rather than the one for the future. If you have a chance to touch this up, do you think you'd be able to do that before we put it on there are a couple of things we talked about touching up. You think you could make the touch-ups before we put it on Moodle?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd be very grateful, just because, you guys have done a bang-up job, just super. And, since it's so good, I hate to keep it from being its very best. Okay, so here we are in China.
Okay, so Starbucks in China. Next slide, please. Yes, so China operates approximately over 3,000 stores in 141 Chinese cities, and just alone in Shanghai, they have over 600 stores, and they have an aggressive expansion plan to open a new store every 15 hours for the next 3 years. Um, these stores will be located in high traffic, high visibility locations with the objective of attracting more customers and therefore increase revenue per store. It's important to mention that China is a tea consumer country, so Starbucks is also selling like tea related products in Chinese stores. And Starbucks was able to bridge gap between tea and coffee drinking culture by offering beverages made with local tea based ingredients. This is a very good strategy to attract more Chinese customers.
Absolutely. Good points all. And I love your graphic. I love the artwork. I don't know where you found this, but that's a great, great piece of graphics.
Competition in China. In the beginning of 2020, Luckin Coffee had approximately 4,500 locations in China compared to 4,200 Starbucks locations at the time. Most of Luckin's stores were or are designed for pickup, and they have an expansion plan to open up stores every 24 hours. However, there was an accounting scandal related to Luckin Coffee, and now the company is pretty much going bankrupt. The sales have declined. steadily month after month. So they do not represent like a big competition
Yeah,
Starbucks anymore.
this outfit's pretty well been neutralized.
Yes. This is the Locking's fraud scandal I was talking about. The stock dropped about 80%, and the company lost over 5 billion in market value. Most of its projects have been put on hold. Okay. The strategy implementation, the alliance with Colombian coffee producers, long-term growth program in India, and the roasting plants overseas. So the alliance with Colombian coffee farmers. So Starbucks has a $3 million commitment from Starbucks with Colombian coffee producers to deliver training and agronomy support to these Colombian farmers in the most vulnerable regions, and this with the objective to educate these farmers um, with how these coffee beans have to be harvested in a way that is going to be not so much harm to the planet. This program will reach over 250,000 farmers across the region, and farmers will be able to improve their farm capabilities and business acumen. The Starbucks will, as well is funding like new equipment for these Colombian farmers.
With Starbucks help. I don't know how you're doing this with a virus. You're
Okay.
superhuman.
That's okay.
But it's not 250,000 farmers, it's 25,000.
Yeah,
But
25,000.
that's okay, it's only 10.
25,000.
Okay.
Okay, new China Coffee Innovation Park. Starbucks is investing $130 million to build a coffee roasting facility in China, and it's set to be done by the year 2022. This is going to be number 7 roasting facility that Starbucks is going to have all around the world, and it's going to be and it's actually the largest investment outside of the U.S. And this investment will allow the creation of highly skilled jobs and new career opportunities for the Chinese people. This new facility supports the Starbucks plan of achieving sustainable coffee manufacturing in Asia and expanding aggressively in this Asian market. India growth program. Starbucks has a 50-50 joint venture with Tata Global Beverages. They have a roasting and packaging plant in Karnataka, and they had 191 stores as of August 2020. Starbucks had previously attempted to enter the Indian market in 2007, but they actually didn't get inside the Indian market because they saw the risk reward too high. I mean, the risk too high. So that's why they have a 50-50 joint venture with Tata Global Beverages nowadays.
Yeah, Tata is a huge conglomerate in India. And this is not, of course, an international business, but in my international course, we learn that in some of these developing nations like India, families own large complex businesses, conglomerates, and these family conglomerates, they just control pretty much everything because they do favors for people in the government and so forth. So the way to get into the market is to form an alliance or a joint venture with one of these family conglomerates. And Tata is probably the biggest of all in India. So Starbucks, the biggest coffee shop company in the world, has joined with Tata, the biggest conglomerate in India. And I'm sure they get along just fine.
Oh, this is just a graph that shows the amount of Tata Starbucks store in India from 2013. So it's been increasing steadily since 2013. Now they have 146. They have more now in Starbucks since this graph is from 2019.
The
So
alliance seems to be working.
yeah. So long-term expansion growth plan. The number of stores openings is increasing year after year. So this is an aggressive growth expansion strategy. It is adapting its menu to regional tastes and preferences, constantly adding new products and beverages. There's a high consumer connection scores, so meaning that there's positive reviews from customers in this geographic location, and there's also high gender diversity compared to other coffee shop businesses. So the purpose of this growth plan is with the objective of establishing a foundation for accelerated growth in future years rather than the short term in this economy, in these countries.
Wow, 129 slides. Ah, um, I don't know how you did it, Federico. Your temperature must be 150 right now. Thank you for attending the class and going to the effort of participating in the presentation. You're a superhuman. You and your partner, Thiago, you guys did a great job here. This is a really super analysis, very comprehensive, used lots of the models in this course. BCG matrix, Ansoff matrix, five forces matrix, on and on and on. Very complete. Great work. If you would be kind enough, I would normally take this PowerPoint and stick it right on what do you call it? Whatever what do they call the
Moodle shell.
Moodle, thank you. But if you can get me those little edits that we talked about, is it possible to get it by tonight?
Yeah, I can do it.
Perfect. Then when I get that, I'll put that on the Moodle shell so that people see everything just the way it ought to be. And that'll be great. Okay. Thanks also to you all for sticking around until almost 4 o'clock. This was a long class, and these presentations are long, and we're sort of getting used to it. But nevertheless, it's worth acknowledging that everybody's sort of doing their part here. I sure hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And Federico, I hope you get better. But if you've got any antibiotic, go take some right now because you've overdone it. And I hope you'll get better really soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, you guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.